everybody, and welcome to the FFL Solidity podcast. My name is Marisa Maggio, and I'm super excited to have a very, very special guest on with us today. We have top producer, Miss Afroditi Lalaj, in the house with us today. Aphrodite, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Hello, guys.
Doing amazing. Super excited to have you on, and really just to kind of share some insights of what you've seen in the industry and kind of what other people can expect coming into this industry. Because it can feel really good when you go out and you help 10 families every day, but the reality of it is it doesn't always look like that. So today we're here to share the good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of what everything really does look like in the insurance realm. So without further ado though, Aphrodite, tell me a little bit of kind of about yourself, what got you into the industry, and kind of why you got started with Family First Life.
So I got started full-time about a year now, exactly. And prior to that, I had been licensed for about 6 months, but I didn't really have the correct team, an upline, or an office. I hadn't purchased leads. Honestly, didn't even know how to purchase leads. So I found out about the convention. So I bought myself a ticket and I just flew down to Miami and I met you guys there. And shortly after I got started.
Awesome. And with that, Aphrodite, what kind of pushed you to action that you saw at convention? And also, what were you doing prior to the insurance industry?
So prior in insurance, I was actually an RN. I had just finished nursing school during COVID, and it definitely had its ups and downs a lot. But I kind of went through a change. So I was like purchasing a house. I kind of changed my entire life around. At the time, I went through a breakup of a very long relationship, and then I decided I was miserable in my career, so I just ended up quitting nursing and everything I had going on in school, and I literally just moved and decided to do real estate and life insurance instead.
Love it. Love it. So you were just like, hey, we're making moves. I'm ready for a change. You had a big change happen within your life, and you're like, hey, if big things are changing now, might as well make big moves at the same time. And I respect the heck out of that because it shows up every day, Aphrodite.
It's crazy.
And kind of with that, getting started, you went out to Miami, you met us and you met the team, which was probably helpful, right? Being that you hadn't been in an office or anything of that sort. Coming out of convention, what were some things that helped you kind of move to action or things that maybe you saw a little bit differently coming out of that first convention?
Okay, so at the convention itself, it was kind of life-changing for me because I have never been in sales ever. I worked for a bank before nursing for about 6.5 years, and I had never thought about going commission ever in my life. So it was kind of crazy, but I just saw everyone else doing it and everything Sean Mike talked about. It was insane, and I knew nothing about insurance or how anything worked, honestly. I hadn't even been contracted yet. But even just listening to the speakers, I kind of had to take like a step back from my life. So I had to do a lot of soul digging, down to the fact that I needed to like hydrate more, work out, pray, small things like that. I needed to like work within myself. So I got back. I actually ended up staying in Miami 2 extra days. In the 2 extra days I stayed there, I made a list of everything I needed to change before I got back. And I did. I came back. I kind of went missing from all my friends and family, honestly, for a few months. I moved out. I got my own apartment, and I just kind of went from there.
I love it. And I think that that's really important because it's like, coming out of a convention, I know that like big decisions are made at big events. We always hear that, right?
100%.
And, you saying, hey, I was in Miami 2 extra days, and I took those 2 days to figure out what do I have to develop within myself, right? And you weren't sitting there like, I need to be the best salesperson, right? You were talking about small disciplines, right? Like you said, praying, journaling, reading, right? Those small disciplines that are going to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. And I think there's always a consistent message in those small disciplines that those small disciplines accumulate to what you're going to end up looking like in general and in this business. So I think you did an awesome job of doing that. And just the fact that right after convention, you get that stuff fresh in your brain, it's like at that point, you're like, let's do this thing, right? So talk to us a little bit about your first couple of months in the business, what that looked like for you, what were some of your biggest struggles, and kind of a little bit how you got through them.
The first couple months in the business were rough for sure. I didn't really know what kind of leads to dial. In the beginning, I was part-time. So I had actually just came back to Connecticut, and I had went through a crazy breakup, so I was still like figuring everything out. The only thing I really had was like my car and a job. And I was working for this guy who had a bunch of like businesses, and I would do like his payroll, but I would drive to like all the stores kind of in the middle of the night. It was exhausting. And I would stay up all night, like third shift doing payroll. It was crazy. So I did that for about 4 or 5 months, I think.
So just to pause real quick, you were working here full time and you're working overnight. So you were basically on like team no sleep.
Yeah, 4 nights a week I was doing that.
That's a lot. All right, but go ahead. That's a lot, but it shows commitment.
Yeah, it was crazy. So what I did was I saved up enough money. I moved out. I got my apartment. I furnished it because I literally came back to Connecticut with nothing. I sold my second car, and I used that as my initial investment for my leads. And I got started from there.
Love it. And what made you say like, hey, like, you know, you're saying you got back to Connecticut, you didn't really have a whole lot with you, right? What made you say, hey, you know what, I'm just going to sell this car because like I need to get leads? Like where did the belief start?
Oh, honestly, it was rough because I didn't believe in myself, but I just kind of went to the office and everyone was like, this is how it works. And I didn't trust myself, honestly. I just kind of trusted the process. So I worked full time for him. I saved up enough money where I would like save for rent. I sold my car, and then just in case those leads didn't work out for me, I had enough money to buy another set of leads just because I knew I was still new. And I sucked at dialing. So I had already failed the batch leads prior to that. So that's kind of how I knew that I needed to take a little bit of time off, do everything correctly, the right way, and then I went back to it.
I love that. And I think it's huge because you talk about plugging into an office, and obviously there's so many different benefits to that, right? But the biggest benefit, I think, really is exactly what you just said. You walk into an office, you see people just like you doing the same exact thing. They're telling you what to say. You know, you have your leads here. Here's the script. You hear them dialing, right? And you're like, okay, I guess I'll just do the same thing. Because you don't want to be that outlier in the room that's like, just like looking around. Like, it's like, eventually we're going to be like, hey, why are you here, right? So you're like, I'm just going to jump into this thing. And I love how you say like, hey, you were willing to sell your second car because you were willing to fail on a lead batch. Now, is every agent not going to make a sale off their first lead batch? No, that's, you know what I mean? That's not necessarily true. But you were in a scenario of, hey, if this lead batch doesn't work out, I'm still in this business. I'm committed. So I have money for my next one, right? So you were already kind of ahead of the game.
Yeah.
I love that. And what were some of like your dips, if you will, kind of going into your first few months in the industry? Because now you're helping 30, 40 and up, you know, families a month. What were some of the struggles maybe that you had, or limiting beliefs, anything of that sort that kind of held you back from being able to write at the level that you're writing at now?
It definitely had its ups and downs. Before I even started this business, in the beginning, it was like a roller coaster. And I actually remember the guy that I worked for, he was like to me, I don't think you're going to make this work. He was like, so I'm going to save your spot. He was like, I'm just being nice. He was like, but you'll be back. And that was kind of like an initial drive for me. And also my older sister, sorry if you watch this, Sandy, but she was so stressed out. She was like, you're not going to have enough money to do this. You shouldn't do this full time. You don't leave the work that you have now. And I remember she even had like a meeting with my dad where they all had me go over my dad's, and they were like, we don't think you should do this because it's going to be too hard. You haven't made any money. Don't do this. So that for me drove me harder, honestly, because I was like, all right, everyone's waiting for me to like fail, so I can't fail. And it's because I had to prove to them that I wasn't failing. So that was very hard. And in the beginning, I didn't have like the right source of leads. I didn't really know how to dial what I was purchasing. I was trying to door knock internet leads with the wrong address on it. It was rough, but I just kind of stayed in the game. I was like, all right, if everybody else is making it work, and they just said attitude and activity, I was willing to work 8 to 8 every day. So I just stayed committed.
And I think that that's huge. Like when you have somebody, whether it's your boss, your family member, it's, your cousin, your aunt, the guy down the street, it doesn't really matter. But when they don't believe in necessarily what you're trying to do, I know for me, when I left the restaurant industry and came into the insurance industry in college, my boss said to me, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to sell life insurance. He said, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I knew in that moment in my head, I was like, I'm never going back there ever again. So this life insurance thing has to work, right?
It has to work.
So seems like you were kind of in a similar situation, but also with your family too. And I know that you're pretty knit tight with your family, which is awesome.
100%.
So you being able to kind of say, hey, I'm still going to do this thing, and you proved them wrong, right? Which, I'm sure they're happy about now. But in the time, you being able to say, hey, I'm going against basically everybody I know and everything that they believe in, if you will. And I'm going to just do what Aphroditi wants to do. And I think that's really powerful because you knew in your heart you could do it, right?
Yeah. The only person that really supported me from the beginning to this day is my mom. She was actually my first policy. I got my first commission from her, and that was my first batch of leads.
Love it. So mom was always there, like, you can do this if this is what you want.
Even when we got back from Miami, I was switching like leads over and getting campaigns. And I remember calling Christina like 10 p.m. and I got off the phone. She was like to me, what do you need? And I was like, I'm picking up a whole campaign. And she was like, just do it. She was like, you're overthinking it too much.
That's right. I love it.
Okay.
Right. She's like, just pull the trigger. Like that. It is what it is.
Literally. I'm like, no matter what I say, she's always like, no problem. If you need anything, I'm here. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Love it. Because we need both of those people in our corners, if you ask me, to be successful here.
Oh, yeah.
So, you need the driver and the, person that's always there to empower you and encourage you. But with that being said, Afro, talk to us a little bit about activity. You're really big on, like, it seems like you're on the phones at 8 o'clock, you're on the dial teams, you're plugged in, you're on the team calls, like you're showing up each and every week. Has there ever been a time where you weren't doing that? And what does it look like now that you are doing that? Kind of to piggyback off that, or what advice would you give to an agent that maybe isn't seeing success, but also isn't willing to plug in?
Honestly, activity is the whole thing. I start dialing sharp at 8 o'clock, latest 8:30 if there's things going on. I'm always in an office by usually 7:30 if I'm not in office. If I'm dialing from home, I have alarms set in my phone religiously to dial. It doesn't matter what's happening, I'm dialing. Personally, I believe in I think your day starts the day before. So what I do is I have all my leads printed out. They're all organized by counties, whatever town I will be in. And I have my freshest leads out. I personally try to have at least 50 to 80 what's new to me leads per dial day. And my goal is to book 15 to 20 appointments for the next 2 run days. I personally am always on Zoom because if I'm dialing from home or in an office and I'm alone, it sucks dialing alone. It's not easy. People are going to curse you out. People are going to tell you they're not interested. Being on Zoom and watching other people doing the same thing kind of just keeps a drive and just, okay, we're doing this. This is all we're doing. I find myself that if I'm alone, I'm using the bathroom 100 times. I'm checking my phone. I'm scrolling through Instagram. Once you're dialing, you're dialing. And I kind of had to put that in my head because it's easy to get sidetracked when you don't have anyone to like answer to because it's your own business. I just kind of remember like if I was working for the bank, we couldn't be on our phones. If you're taking care of a client, if you're a teller, or if you're with a patient at a hospital, that patient, that client is your main priority. So why is dialing not mine right now? Just because I don't have to answer to someone. And that's something for me personally that I kind of had to check myself on and click in because it's very easy to just do whatever you want.
Absolutely. So you had to almost view it as that W-2 mindset of if I was at the bank, for example, I wouldn't be able to do ABC. So I need to treat this as if I'm at the bank or I'm at ABC job. Because if not, it's like we think back. You ever have a dial day that you didn't do what you said you were going to do?
Oh, so many.
Right? We've all had those, right? But it's like in hindsight, we look back and we're like, but why would we work harder for the bank, for example, than we will for ourselves? And I think that that's a big reality check a lot for all of us because it helps us understand and almost rethink of why are we doing this and what's the end goal, right? So that's huge. And then plugging in on dial team, like you said, like I know for me, when I used to dial at home, which was a long time ago now, or I'd probably be out of the business, I would be like doing like the laundry was like my favorite hobby. I was like, who knew that doing laundry could be so fun? Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't fun. I was just looking for something else to do except dial, right? And be able to be like, oh, I made 50 phone calls and I have 2 appointments. Poor me. It's like, no, not poor you. That's actually pretty good for 50 dials, right? So what pushes you, Afro, on those days that you really don't want to show up, that you're like, I really don't feel like doing this today. And, but I already have my, 20 appointments set up for the next 2 days, but I'm really, really tired from yesterday. Like what pushes you and motivates you to keep going?
Ooh, honestly, I don't really allow myself to have those days, but if I do, I just kind of have to tell myself there's a reason to why I'm doing this. I believe in you have to love what you're doing, because if you treat it like a job, anyone who has a job is miserable at it. If you enjoy what you do, you won't feel like you're working. You actually be excited to get up every day. If I have 15 appointments a day, I am thrilled and ready to go. If I have no appointments, I'm like, all right, I'm upset. I have to do as many door knocks as I can today, because there's no way that I'm not going to be in the field.
Absolutely. So you don't allow yourself to get to that point of like, oh, I'm going to give myself 21 excuses as to why I can't go see the appointments I already booked, right? Like that kills me. If you already booked them, please go. People need your help, right?
Yeah. And I just remember personally, like even having the prior jobs that I've had, I'm like, all right, I used to be totally miserable. And I remember when I worked for the bank, I had a really nice brand new BMW. And I remember used to looking out the window and being like, damn, I can't touch my car till 6:30 p.m. So now I'm literally like, I can get lunch when I want. I can be in a car all day. I can listen to podcasts, listen to music. So it's like, we're working, yes. It is an 8 to 8 kind of thing, but it's like I don't really feel like I'm always working, because it's like I genuinely enjoy seeing people. They're bored, they're on disability, they're happy to see you. And then when you leave a home and Miss Mary tells you, it's like, oh, I actually feel so much better for doing this. I thought it was going to be a hassle. I'm so happy you came over. That to me, honestly, it's not even about like us getting paid anymore. It's like, wow, I really made a difference in this person's life. It's just a good feeling to have.
Absolutely. And I think seeing that, like you said, in clients, like once you have that first client that's like, thank you so much, which by the way, it doesn't take long. Like people are very appreciative usually once you get in there. Seeing that and feeling that, it really does change your perspective on what we're actually doing here. So I love that. And I think that that's huge. Last couple of things I want to hit on, Afro, you're really good at connecting, whether that's on the phone or face to face, because I feel like almost everybody you sit with, you're helping them, which is great. What would you say to any new agent or anybody out there that might be struggling, because you're all face to face, in terms of connecting with their client? What are some things that you do to connect with your clients when you get into the home? That's just very like nonchalant.
Like on a personal basis for them to make me trust them.
Exactly. So they trust you, they like you, they understand that you're there to help them and do business.
Honestly, in the very beginning, I felt like I was super transactional. I was kind of coming off as a salesperson, because in the beginning you just do naturally. So I feel like I was making it a little bit awkward, like asking for the social or like account numbers and things like that, and I was messing it up a lot in the house. Now I walk in and I'm super myself. So when I work with clients, I usually just tell them upfront what I need, and I just tell them I'm very myself. So if I kind of just pick up whatever vibes are in the house.
Yep.
But most of the time I'm in like lower income disability homes, so I'm very myself. So if Miss Mary is like cursing at kids, I'm like, excuse my language, I'm like, oh shit, why are you being such a little badass kid? And they go in the kitchen. And once I say things like that, they're like, oh, you're cool. It's like, yeah, whatever you need. Honestly, past that, I'm just like, I just try to bond with the family, if they have kids or grandkids. And when I'm dialing on the phones, I always ask them, hey, who's going to be your beneficiary? They say my daughter. I'm like, okay, perfect. What's your daughter's name? Just so that way I'm not rude. And as soon as I walk in through the house, the first thing I do is use names. Because once you get personal, it's different. Like my mom has 3 daughters, and it's easy for someone to be like, oh, you're going to put your daughter as a beneficiary? She's probably going to be like, yeah, okay, whatever. But if someone says, hey, you're going to put Afro as your beneficiary, that's going to pull on her heartstrings. Because if anything happens, I'll be the one handling everything. So, like, just using a basic name, things like that, just makes it way more personal, I feel like, in the home.
Absolutely. And I love how you talked about being yourself, because I think people can tell when you go in there and you try to like put on like this like sales performance. And like you said in the beginning, we might think like that's like the right thing to do, but by default we'll notice like, hey, like that's actually the wrong thing to do. Go in there, be yourself, be who you are, and like you said, connect with the people, meet them where they're at, right? Like you said, like, you'll call out the little kid and the mom will love you for that, right? Or you're playing with the dog, right? Like whatever it is, but being yourself is huge. And then pointing out just small things you can connect with. Guys, if they don't live in a beautiful home or a beautiful area, you don't want to walk in and start talking about how beautiful the area is or the home. Then you just already sound like a liar from the jump, right? So go in there, being your authentic self, I think is huge. Now, last thing I want to hit on, Afro, you're crazy good on the phones. Like I was, talking with Christine the other day, and I was like, the best person I think like I've ever heard on the phones is Aphrodite, like debatably. Like your word tracks are really good. Like you have a really, really good, clean phone script. No matter what they say, it's like, that's exactly why you're calling. Okay, no big deal. So if you don't mind, let's run a quick phone script.
Okay, let's do it.
All
Ready.
Right. And I'll be whatever lead you want me to be.
You can do final expense.
All right. You're going to call me.
Okay.
All right.
Ring, ring, Miss Mary.
Hello?
Hey, Miss Mary. My name is Aphrodite. I was just calling, getting back to you here really quickly regarding this little postcard form that you had filled out by hand and mailed back to us here at the benefits office. Do you remember filling out the little form, Miss Mary?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, perfect. You have wrote your age here is 65. Is that still correct, dear?
It is.
Okay, beautiful. And you wrote your address here as 123 Main Street. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And I see that you didn't fill out a spouse's name here on the form. Are you currently single, married, divorced?
Single.
Okay, beautiful. Good for you. People are crazy these days anyways, and I always make that joke. And I'm like, all right, perfect. I'm just a senior underwriter that's been assigned to you. My job is super simple. I just kind of go over the information, and I'm just there to see what you may or may not be eligible for with these 30 different companies that we're contracted to work with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. My job is to make sure that you're protected and to make sure that you have the lowest state premium. A couple of discount questions here, Miss Mary. Are you currently single? Oh, I already asked that. Are you currently working, retired, or on disability?
On disability.
On disability? Okay, perfect. And a couple of discount questions here. Who were you looking to put down as your beneficiary?
My daughter.
Okay, perfect. What's your daughter's name, just so I'm not rude?
Rachel.
Rachel? Okay, beautiful. So God forbid something were to happen to you, then Rachel would be the one picking up all the pieces. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Dear, are you currently a smoker or non-smoker?
Non-smoker.
Okay, perfect. That qualifies you for a discount. And second discount question, all depends on who you bank with. Do you have a small credit union or a big bank? And you don't have to tell me which one.
Yeah, I do. I have both.
Okay, perfect. So like I said, just grab a paper and a pen for me. The purpose of my call is I'm actually dispatched in your area tomorrow. I'm helping about 10 other families. What I can try to do is I could try to squeeze you in here for about 5 minutes between my appointments. Are you typically more of a morning or an afternoon kind of person?
Afternoon.
Okay, perfect. I could try to squeeze you in here either 1 or 3 p.m.
1 o'clock is good.
1 p.m.? Okay, perfect. All right, dear. I'm just going to give you my information in case you need it from now until then.
Okay.
So my name is Aphrodite, and I usually spell it out for them. And I say the confirmation code for tomorrow's, and I'll usually just make up a number. I'll be like 2232. I'll just make something up.
Right.
And then I'll be like, all right, just so you recognize me when I get there, dear. I'm a short little Greek girl with black hair, and I have my ID on me, so you don't think I'm some crazy lady trying to eat lunch with you, okay?
All right. Sounds good.
And then I usually say, where should I park when I get there?
There's some visitor parking.
Okay. Should I use the front, back, or side door of the building?
Right in the front. You'll see my buzzer number 2.
Perfect. And do you have any pets that would try to lick me to death when I get there?
I don't. No.
Okay, perfect. All right, dear. I have everything I need here. Lastly, are you good at keeping the appointments you set up?
Yeah, I am.
All right, perfect. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Just give me a little wiggle room in case I hit traffic, because you know how people get on the road. They're crazy.
They are, yeah. No worries. Take your time.
All right, dear. I look forward to meeting and helping you. Have a great day.
Thanks. All
sure
right.
the phone script goes.
And that's awesome because what you're doing is you're setting the stage already before you're going into the home. It's like Miss Mary already likes you before you go into the home, right? And that just helps it like just that little bit more, right? Adding that little bit more personality of I'm going to be the short Greek girl with the dark hair, right? You know, it just helps them understand, hey, you're a real person. You're going there to help them out. And also the beneficiary, that's huge. Pulling that out, it's like, guys, if you're scared to ask that on the phone, you're going to be scared to ask it in person. If you're doing a telesale, you're doing a Zoom, whatever your model is, you can't be scared to ask people about their beneficiary when we're talking about life insurance.
100%. That's
like the most base thing that you want to get out. And I love how you also say, like, you know, what's your daughter's name? Because like you said, your mom, you know, has 3 daughters. If someone just says your daughters, it's very general versus, you know, Aphrodite, right? Or Marisa or whatever, you know, it might be. So you're using Rachel when you come into the house. You have that written down probably on a sticky note, and you're walking in knowing, hey, Rachel, her daughter is going to be the beneficiary. And that's powerful from there. And I think that allows you also to be really personable with the client because they already kind of feel like they know you a little bit. Love that. All right. And just to kind of wrap it up, any tips that you would give anybody out there that's watching?
Tips, I would just say you have to be consistent in this business, 100% consistent. You always need new leads. Dial days and run days, obviously, is no question. And one thing for me is I had to stay consistent, always working, because in the beginning I was like, oh, I worked a few days. I made a few $1,000s. I could just take a day off. And it's very easy to get a few chargebacks and then go back to having to pay bills and set up the appointments all over again. So consistency is key with everything, honestly.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing to, you know, as well, Afro, you've went away a couple of times, which is good, right? Like you should go, you should see the world. But on those times you're going away, it seems like you're working up until you're going away to make sure you're hitting a goal, right? Like, I think it's important if you're leaving, right? You got to have a structured schedule that says like I'm going to do A, B, C before I leave. Is that kind of what it looks like for you?
Yes, 100%. So, if I know that I have a trip, I set myself a goal of how many applications I have to do. So if I already book a flight, I kind of tell myself in my head that you can't go on this trip unless you don't have these many applications. So say, for example, if I fall short throughout the week, usually Saturdays I work more of a half a day because later on it's a little bit more difficult to get into the homes. But if I don't make all the applications that I have set for my goal, I'll work a full Saturday until the day that I leave.
Love it. Love it. So you're working until you get those applications in, and then you can feel really good on your trip too, right?
Yeah, because even when I'm on a trip, though, it's like it's stressful. I'm always like, I can't wait to go back and just, it's bad.
Right. It's like that love relationship with
it's
it,
addicting.
Though, right? It is addicting in the best way ever. But Aphrodite, you gave some awesome information today. Really just kind of highlighted how you went from where you were to where you are now. And just to kind of wrap everything up, you know, what are your goals to wrap up this year?
Oh, I honestly just want to try to grow and get better every day. I am trying to write consistently 40K because right now I'm like between 30 and 40, like kind of like have waves. So my goal right now is to honestly pick up more and new leads. It's always the goal, I feel like, for everyone. But maybe try to get into mortgage protection a little bit so I could up my numbers. And yeah, just try to better and write higher numbers consistently.
Absolutely. And I think that's the key. If you can better yourself every single day, you're going to get better in this business every day. So that's awesome. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, Afro. And if anybody, you know, is watching this podcast and they're thinking, hey, like, you know, I could do, or I want to do, you know, what you're doing, Afro, how could they reach out to you to learn more about what we're doing here at Family First Life?
Well, I have my Instagram, which I use for work and everything else, obviously. But my Instagram name is Aphroditi, L_222. And my phone number, my direct line is 860-914-0025. And that's my cell phone.
Perfect. So if you want to work with somebody who's absolutely crushing it, who has been at the beginning of, hey, I feel like I'm going to fail, to at the top of, hey, I want to be helping 40, 50, 60 families a month, then your girl is right here. So reach out to her. But Aphrodite, thank you so much for being on with us today. It was a pleasure having you in here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Take care, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow Aphrodite. See you next time.